overcoming adversity, doing it at all costs, making wins at all loss. Yeah, the world is all lost, yeah. Ain't no turning back, we headed straight for the stars, yeah. Oh yeah, we overcoming adversity, doing it at all costs, making wins at all loss. Yeah, the world is all lost, yeah. Ain't no turning back, we headed straight for the stars, yeah. Oh yeah.
Welcome to the Overcoming Adversity podcast, where we go real deep into some conversations, some real life stories about challenges, obstacles that we do face that leads to transformational growth in mindset and being resilient. It's all about breaking the bottle with all the things that we do bottle in. But before we get started, make sure you like, subscribe to the channel. I'm your host, Michael Allison, and today we got on the show a really good brother, a really good friend of mine. He's the founder and CEO of the Cheranfant Group. He's a health enthusiast. He's father of two beautiful kids. On social media, you can find him at Andy Cherenfant _. Let's welcome to the show my brother, Mr. Andy Cherenfant.
Listen, thank you. I am truly grateful. I appreciate you, Mike. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Man, thank you so much for being here and joining me on the show, brother. It's been long overdue, man. I think you kind of know my journey. I think you kind of know what's been in the making for the show. And I'm so thrilled to have you on the show. We met 3 years ago, and I've always looked up to you as a mentor, as an accountability partner, somebody with wisdom that I could always depend on when it comes to knowledge for personal life and for business growth and things like that, bro. So I really appreciate you being on the show with me, man.
I truly appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words. And brother, first off, I would like to say I am extremely proud of you. I say proud of you. Like you said, we've known each other about 3 years, and we've both grown and taken many leaps and bounds. But brother, the steps you've taken, I am so proud of you. Like I shared several times, you are an inspiration to me as well. So I truly appreciate it. I really do.
Man, thank you, man. Thank you. So this show is about overcoming adversity, man, and talking to people that has been through a whole bunch of things in their life, that came through a life of transformation. And you're one of those people that I have identified that I wanted to be a guest on the show. So let's get into it, man. Tell me a little bit about yourself, Andy, about your background, how you grew up, brother.
Wow. Like you shared, I have two beautiful children, grew up in South Florida in Miami, grew up parents, entrepreneurs. That's all I do. Grew up in the restaurant industry. Most kids, when they're going outside to play, I grew up in a restaurant, sitting at the table, waiting for them to close, go home 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. So growing up, it was all entrepreneurship, just working hard, understanding and believing that whatever you believe in, you can do. So from an early age, I saw my parents, being immigrants from the country of Haiti, come to Miami. I was born and raised here, but them coming down here. And I can vividly remember my dad initially, before we started the restaurant. He was working for a roofing company. I mean, grueling work. They used to come home, used to be tired, and you could tell he had a long day's work. And he believed in his dream of opening a restaurant. And years later, went from one restaurant to running 3 simultaneously. So I saw, when you believe in yourself, you believe in your dreams. To just go and pursue it 100%. And I'm just proud I'm at the place where I took that and grew and built from there. So.
Wow, appreciate that, bro. So it sounds like, that we have a similar story. I would say kind of with my dad. My dad, when he came to America, he was always a grounder. I would say back in Jamaica, he had a taxi business, he had a syrup business, and he had multiple taxis that he was running. And when he came to America, he got into welding. He even was picking limes out there in the field where you see people down in Miami.
Mhm.
And I never understood that. So like for you to share that with me and like your total understanding of that, I think that's pretty cool. What I wanted to ask you to follow up on that though is for you seeing that, right, to where you're at now, how has that like shaped your perspective on life? And then I want to ask you, how have you matriculated that down to like your kids now too?
Well, me personally, initially growing up, I knew how hard my parents worked. And all I used to say when I was a child, I'm not going to be working that hard. I'm not going to be working that hard. There's no way working that hard. Because it went from my parents, my dad working at the roofing company, my mom being a nursing aide, and then for them going straight into the restaurant. But you actually shared something that triggered. Prior to my parents opening the restaurant, my dad actually bought a van and he used to transport. He had a transportation business where he was transporting kids to and from school. And before he took the kids to school in the morning, he was actually transporting adults to go work in the fields, and then he would come back and do the kids. I actually forgot about that. And I believe he had two vans. Well, not two at simultaneously, but he started off with, I remember him buying two vans and started that before the restaurant. And that's what actually enabled him to go ahead and get the restaurant. Thanks for bringing that back. So, yeah, it
Shoot,
actually
I'm
helped me.
thinking maybe my dad was in one of them vans, man.
Yeah, it just molded me to the place of, yes, I was motivated back at the time, thinking I'm not going to be working that hard, because they were physically working really hard. And what I found out with being an entrepreneur, you still have to work. Now it's just a matter of how you work, but you still have to put in the same time and you still have to put in the same dedication. So yeah, it's still a lot of work. It's still grinding. It's just in a different way. Instead of the physical hard work, it's more of the mental and the long hours. So those attributes I had to learn later on, because as a child I'm not going to be working that hard. I'm not. But with anything you do in life, if you're pursuing it and you want to be the best at it, you're going to end up putting it sometimes. But as far as how it helped me, I just knew I wanted to do more and to be able to scale in a different way. So as opposed to like with my parents, my dad who used to work at the roof company, like I shared, then had the van business and then opened up the restaurant. The only thing I would say different now is the biggest thing I've learned is business and personal credit. With
Mhm.
that, where going from, instead of you working years and years and you're chipping away and saving and saving and saving, I've learned where you can leverage your personal and business credit, where you can accelerate the years and years like my dad did of driving the van to saving up to be able to get the first restaurant. Where if you're taking care of your credit, or even if you don't have good credit or business credit, you can build that in a matter of months and be able to start your business a lot sooner. So those are one of the things I've learned to be able to help people and myself to be able to move things along a lot faster. So
Wow. So I totally know, understand that and get that. I never learned the credit game personally or business wise until I got into like my early 30s.
mm,
And imagine not getting that information as a kid, as a teenager, to include even like in your 20s and things like that. So I struggle with that personally when it came to a lot of things around like finances and like being like rejected and being told no, you need this, or these high interest rates and all these other things. So I think that's great perspective that you brought and shared. I wanted to get into so what are like some specific difficult situations that you've been in or that you've experienced that brought you some setbacks? And then I guess I wanted to know, through those setbacks, what are some strategies that you had to implement in your life to like help get you out of some of these situations that you may have found yourself in?
yeah, that's a great question. I would say in my life, one of the, I would say almost the most recent was me going through a challenging divorce. And
Hmm.
not per se challenging being, the financial part, or it was just more growing up, like I said, in a household with two parents and also grandparents, always been together. So me, that's something I never even considered, never something that ever crossed my mind of, actually separating. So I went through a divorce. It was extremely challenging. I went through about a depression for about 4 to 5 years.
Mm.
And as much as people say, well, how did you go through it for 4 or 5 years, or why so long? It's because I never envisioned and never saw it coming. And it's just something, it was a really challenging time for me to get over. But something that happened prior to was when we spoke about credit, where we both had good credit. We both had business credit. We both built it the right way and we both did it. And we were pretty successful with acquiring funding and so forth. But when I went through the divorce, as most people call it, life happens
Hmm.
where, was going through a transition and went through some challenging time. We had a business that was thriving. And, we one of the agreements that I had as I won't say as a Caribbean, but, I is going to be taking care of the kids. We haven't split custody. So, but at least the kids, the house, have the business. I know it's going towards the kids. Personally, I'll start over, which was something I was okay with, but I didn't anticipate it with the depression being as challenging as it was. So with the 4 years, credit took a major hit. When I say major hit, something I wasn't used to, because I wasn't taught financial literacy as a child as well. And, of course, like everybody, first credit card was I went to college, got my Discovery card and went shopping with it. Uh, and there goes the credit from there. But then I learned early on, to take care of the credit, build it up. But when I went through the challenges after the divorce, um, that's when, after about 4 or 5 years, that's when I had to take control and
Hmm.
literally had to take control, got it together. Um, and that's when I actually went through a couple, three, four people, helped me fix my credit, noticed that nothing was happening, just listening to what everybody's saying and waiting, and went to the second person, nothing happened, third person. And the third or fourth person, I was like, no, I need to, this is not happening again. So I just ordered a couple books and just started, online, and got my credit fixed within 2 months. And I was
Hmm.
like, can't be that easy. And lo and behold, maybe about a couple weeks later, after my credit was done, I started working here locally in my city, where we managed. I was a loan director in our city in Pompano Beach, and we were
Hmm.
able to help people in the Northwest community with business credit and helping them get funding. And I came in more as an advisor, and lo and behold, just because of the information I was learning with building the business credit, and then there with funding, with doing the funding ourselves, prior to the divorce. Um, 6 months later, they hired me as a loan director, and um, that just grew with the relationship with the bankers, and just learning more and more. So that situation actually led me and almost forced me to be where I am today. When they say certain times where certain challenges in your life you think is for bad, but it actually puts you where you need to be, if you're not going to do it willingly, God's going to find a way to place you there. And that's where I truly believe, and I'm truly grateful for a lot of my experiences that I went through, because I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't have learned and gone through the experiences, especially with meeting all the great people I've met along the way. So I'm grateful for my challenges, and the divorce, I would say, to answer your question, would be the biggest challenge. And for me, overcoming it was what I've learned to now put me where I am today. So I'm truly
Got
grateful.
you. So I like that you chose to be selfless in essence, and to just pour into this company and just give them value,
Mhm,
value,
mhm.
value, value. And then, for a lot of people that may have been going through a divorce, what I'm saying, like they could have went through that deep phase of depression, isolation, thoughts of suicide, financial hardship, maybe some resentment, some unforgiveness that it could have been dealing with around that whole entire topic and stuff like that. But you did not let that break you, or you did not even sit there and hang out in your own misery and things like that. Like, I think one of the key things that I've always said is, like, you got to participate in your own rescue, and that's what you chose to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I like that's what you did. And now that you chose to, like, go that route to overcome, like, your adversity, it seemed like the lessons that I see that a lot of people learn when they go through adversity makes them stronger, right? So, like, now you're much more wiser, you're much more prepared, and those are some things that I know that you share with me around some of that exact same topic and things like that, that has helped me personally myself. So I want to get into the credit a little bit more. So since you became an expert in the credit field, and you've been helping so many people, and you started your own firm, started your own business to help on people here locally in South Florida, and I know you've started doing that across the United States too as well. I wanted to ask you if you could tell me a little bit the importance of credit, and now the importance of credit, like for your kids and things like that, because I know that you have kids that's in college, and I always see you at like basketball games and things like that. So I want to hear, like, how did you pass that wisdom down in regards to like credit repair?
Yeah, well, as far as the credit repair, what I've learned is, as we shared earlier, I didn't learn that at an early age. I had to
Hmm.
learn it post college, after, when we were trying to do some transactions and we weren't able to do it, and then we know, oh, we need credit for it. The credit is real. So what I took it upon myself is I didn't want my children to go through that experience. And
Hmm.
there's a saying where you're here to pass on what you've learned, so they, meaning your children and the people coming behind you, they don't have to go through what you went through. So I just took it upon myself. At the time, my wife, we went ahead and we made a decision where we were going to make sure the kids were they were going to be raised a certain way. They was going to be raised in a certain environment. We had our core beliefs that we believed in, and one thing that we wanted to teach them was financial literacy. And it wasn't something where it was, pouring into them every day and just keep doing. It was just everyday living where common terminologies were being used in the house, just things that they were seeing. They were always going to work with us. They were always, when we're in conversations, it'd be a casual, did you understand what daddy was saying? Or did you understand what the man was saying? It was just little things that just piqued their interest. And even with watching shows at home, watching YouTubes and different things, I made sure when we were riding in a car, they were listening to things that was educational, and, things just started getting poured into them and just poured into them. And as recent as when my daughter, she's a sophomore now in college, I actually shared a video on my YouTube page, on my Instagram, of her first day of college, where I
Mhm.
was sharing with, the community, where the power of credit, where I was sharing with them, I put her on as an authorized user on my business credit card on my American Express, and literally she was walking around campus with a platinum, American Express. And how is because from an early age, they were going to the store with me, and I was letting them swipe. They were going to the store with me and having them put in, the information, given the zip code. Why? Because I wanted them to get accustomed with it. And then the conversation happened. You still owe this money. We got to pay this money. And just teaching them the exchange, just because you swipe it, you still owe the money. So you still have to make sure at the end of the month is paid. So when she got to college, it became a little bit, I took it up a notch, where when she had access to the card, this is your budget. You're now responsible for this. This is what you're allocated every month. This is what you use. If you go over it at a certain date, you're done. Meaning you're going to have to wait till the next billing cycle when daddy pays it or daddy gives it to you to pay it. And she did that once or twice, but she learned. And actually at this point, I'm grateful. She has a pretty good credit score. She has her business that's established. We're now in the process of building the business credit. My son has his business that's already registered. That's going on about a year now, I believe, a year and a half. And we're now in the process of building that. And he's getting ready to start his own Amazon store. And so I just like teaching them to start things early on, where it's not a forced thing. If you want to do it, here. If you don't want to do it, daddy's still going to talk about it. You don't have to do it. But then eventually it becomes, what you're raised with and what you're around is truly what you grow up with. So that's something we took a lot of pride in, and I'm pretty proud of my kids. They're going in the right direction.
Shoot, I'm proud of them too, bro.
Yeah. What I was so happy. My son just turned 18. Happy birthday, AC, March the 12th, that just passed, on his 18th birthday. And a lot of times, my son has a personality where you think he's not listening, but he's listening.
Mm.
He was there. I used to make sure he was at the table when my daughter started her Amazon store. He was literally sitting at the table when I called Navy Federal to do some secured loans for her. He was at the table when I called Bank of America to put her on as authorized user. The day he turned 18, we greeted each other like, "Happy birthday, Papi," because he was with his mom on that day, early that day.
Mhm.
I called him in the morning. "Good morning, AC," and we said what we said, and we met later on that evening. And as we were driving in the car after school, the first thing he said after the "Hello, Dad," and "Can we call Navy Federal so I can do my secure loan?" Because you can't do it until you're 18.
Right, right.
Second thing he asked is, "Can we get started with the Amazon store?" That was one of my I will never forget that day. And it happened to be on his birthday, but that's one of the proudest moments, where he was waiting till he was 18. And I was
Mhm.
sharing with his sister, like, a lot of times he's nonchalant, like, you think he's not listening, but they're listening. So just keep pouring into them, and just know that they are receiving it. When it's time comes, they're going to be ready to go. So that's actually one of my proudest parents moments, of him
Salute to
asking.
that, bro.
Yeah.
I love that you started creating a habit at an early age. And what's going to happen is when they have their own kids, they're going to pass that down. Because, like, as we started off the show, you could remember far back to, like, your childhood with your parents and stuff like that. And that's the story that they're going to tell and start sharing and putting into their own kids' lives. So I think that was extremely important. Um, if you would, it sounds like when it comes to like parenting, you and your ex have a amicable relationship with raising your kids. So I guess for our listeners out there that may have been divorced or going through a divorce or whatever it may be, what is it that you could share in regards to like maybe the divorce process or what that was like for you, and then maybe what is it like now in regards to like co-parenting with kids?
One of the biggest things I want people to take away, especially when you're, because that's traumatic. That's a
Mhm.
traumatic experience for the children. And you want the biggest thing is keep adult conversation strictly for adults. Do not interfere the children with it. Do not, get them involved in it because believe it or not, even though some kids may not share it, but that is a traumatic experience for them. And
Mhm.
one thing I know I took pride in was, always reinforcing, regardless of what their mom and I was going through, where I always praised their mom. One thing, and I can't hide it, she was an amazing cook. And I know my dad's gonna kill me, but she's like one of the best cooking queens alive. So always praise her for her cooking. Baking, it's a different story. Daddy gonna tell you the truth, but the cooking, I made sure I always praise her. I found something positive to always every now and then reinforce with the kids. So even though they knew we were going through the divorce, every now and then daddy said something that, okay, so it's not that bad. But it's just you just want to teach them that okay, yeah, adults can go through what they're going through, but for one, they're still your mom, they're still your dad, but also you still want to keep reinforcing because they're still the parents. They're not going anywhere. And that's something I think is extremely important with co-parenting. And the other thing is, even when you're going through challenges with the partner, keep the kids first. Even if one sees something different or feels something, because it's going to be an emotional and challenging time for the adults. But if at least one person keeps that in mind, it'll be some type of balance somewhere along the lines, and the kids will come out a lot better on the end of it.
Yeah, I'm happy that you said that you guys establish a great plan
Yeah.
around co-parenting. It sounds like you guys established some boundaries too as well, and you guys honored that. Admittedly, I would say that when I went through my divorce with my son's mom, initially we did not go about it the greatest. It was pretty bad, and it's not as of late, couple years now, whatever it may be, things have gotten tremendously better, and me and her are extremely amicable, and our relationship is in a good space. And our son is thriving. He's doing well in school, to honor society, football team, colleges
Congratulations.
sending him stuff all day long. So
Congratulations.
it's we had to grow, we had to learn from that. We had to learn how to respect each other, how to communicate better with each other, and it was important and imperative for us to definitely display what you said in front of them, because it could be traumatic for a kid when they're going between households. They're getting involved in these different types of emotions. They're if your ex spouse chooses to start dating someone else, now there's somebody else in the dynamic of this co-parenting relationship. So just understanding all of that stuff, I think, is extremely important, bro. So I salute you guys for that, man.
Yeah. And I want to share one more thing. It's um we did have our challenges where
Mhm.
as adults we did have our challenges, but the main thing was when the kids were around, words may not have been exchanged, but we were cordial,
Mhm.
meaning if nothing was said, but nothing negative was said. And to me, there's a really fine line. Yes, the kids probably felt the energy, but I think overall, with the positive reinforcements that was done every now and then, it kind of overshadowed, it, kind of took over and made it more of a positive situation because there were challenges. We're adults, but the overall big picture was we always wanted to keep, adults conversations to adults. So that's the biggest takeaway.
Got you. I want to jump into another part of the conversation here, is some stuff that we've spoken about, and how is the dynamic with in regards to like where you're at in life with like your siblings, and how is that with like growing up? Can you talk a little bit about the dynamics of what was that like for you?
Growing up, as far as my siblings, grew up with four sisters.
Hmm.
I'm the second oldest. I have an elder sister, and in the household, I was raised with my grandmother and my mom. So it was at 4, 5, 6, 7. Grew up with seven females in the house. So I own at times. I'm an extreme emotional person. I don't mind sharing my feelings. I'm really big on sharing my thoughts and being open. And at times I can come off overbearing, but it's all done in love. But yeah, I was raised with four sisters and my mom and my aunt and my grandmother. And growing up, we had a pretty good relationship. Of course, we always go through what we go through with our siblings, but overall, we're a close, tight knit family. My sister behind me passed away a couple years ago, so that was one of the most challenging times in our family, as for me as an adult. But we're a pretty close knit family. We've actually gotten tighter and closer since the passing of my sister. Where I used to always preach and talk, don't take time for granted, don't take events for granted. And I have a big saying of being intentional, where you have to be intentional with everything that you do. And I noticed after the passing of my sister, we actually took a big family vacation. It was about 35, 40 of us that hopped on a cruise together. And I was extremely proud, where years of what you're saying and what they see, and my family took it to heart, and actually put action behind it, where it was just more of like, time is not promised to anyone. So you have
Mhm.
to, the time that you have, that you're allocated while here, you have to make the best of it and love the people that's around you, and just make the best of it. So yeah, growing up, my sisters and my parents grew up in a loving home, supportive home. Um, so it was a pretty good environment growing up.
And that's awesome, man. I think family is definitely key in regards to like a support system. At the end of the day, when everybody goes away and all that stuff, only a certain few is going to be with you. Some people family don't stay with them, but I think for the most part, you know what I mean. I think family's key when it's all said and done. I want to pivot a little bit. So, in regards to this journey that you've been on, right? I know that you had some ups, some downs, some highs and some lows. I know that sometimes we sometimes maybe seeking like what is my purpose in life? Where am I? Where's the direction I'm trying to go in my life and things like that. What is it? What was some like pivotal moments in your life where you said, "This is the life that I'm going to start to lead. I'm going to start being a leader. I'm going to start being a mentor. I'm going to start taking this path and lead a life of transformation." What was that for you?
That actually started after my divorce, where I started working with the city. They put me in a leadership position. And throughout my entire high school, my senior year, I had my first job. I worked at the Miami Arena, went to college, came back, started a business with my brother-in-law. He had a business, came in, worked on it, developed another business. And I believe, I want to say maybe 4 or 5 years into it, I went ahead and transitioned. I wanted to pursue my dream of being a firefighter. Um, I spoke to the chief for the first time. He was like a 30-year vet, a chief at the time in Metro Dade,
Hmm.
City of Metro Dade County, where he told me I passed the city of Miami and Metro Dade County exam to be a firefighter. Back then, they were ranking you a certain place. I was ranked 5 on one list and 7 on the other list. And no, I'm sorry, I was ranked at a certain place. I finished where they cut off the hiring. 5 people were left in front of me, 4 people were left in front of me, and on the other one, there were 6 people left in front of me, and I wasn't hired at that time.
Hmm.
And of course, me being young, me being passionate, I said, you know what? This may be a sign. If this has never happened where somebody made it on both lists, maybe this is a sign I'm not supposed to be a firefighter. It's just something I love to do. Let me find something else to be able to serve, because I love helping and serving people. So I went in early on, became a manager at Eckerd's. 6 months later, didn't the environment wasn't conducive for me as an overall organization. So I went over to Walgreens, and after about a year, I this wasn't for me. Like, I just couldn't, the day in and day out of doing certain things. But it actually helped me develop a lot of great habits. Had a great mentor who was the general manager and taught me a lot of things, and some practices I still hold till today. But to answer your question, when I was working at the city, when after the divorce, they hired me as a contractor, and just the natural things that I knew just from experience and studying and researching with doing the funding and fixing my credit, it was a natural position for me. And I went in, restructured a lot of things, talking to the bankers and just information. Just my first few months of, they thought I was into funding, been in it for years and years and years. And I used to tell, because I'm a candid person, used to tell my administrator at the time, where it's common sense. And it wasn't really common sense. It was just because I put a lot of years and time in, acquiring information and making sure things are done right to be able to acquire the funding. But to them, and at the end of the day, it is learning a whole new industry and helped a lot of people. We put out over $1.7 million, was something I'm extremely proud of. Led that organization, led the program. And with that, that's where I really felt where my purpose was to serve. And yes,
Mhm.
we all serve in some capacity, but mine
Right.
was more hands-on, helping people and guiding them and teaching them, because that's something I noticed within our community. We were not, a lot of us weren't taught financial literacy. A lot of us weren't taught the basic about credit. A lot of us weren't taught, how to build your credit. We hear a lot about in this country where they're saying, we don't have access to funding and doing certain things. Yes, to some degree, yes, but there are certain foundations we have to have in place. And what I found is when you have those different certain foundations in place, you have access to funding. But the biggest key is us finding the information and us sharing the information of what it takes to be able to get there. And the biggest thing is discipline. And with me, growing into my role there, I noticed the administrator, the mayor, they were putting me in positions. I was sitting in boardrooms. They were putting me in boards where, for example, with the city of Pompano Beach, I believe it was within my second year, they put me on the board where we changed the entire logo of the city. We changed the whole brand. We rebranded the entire city. And I was on a board that was part of that. My claim to fame, I joke with my kids a lot. Your daddy owns the sun, the color of the sun in the city of Pompano Beach, and the way the fish, we have a happy fish. My claim to fame is until they change the logo and until they change the color of the sun, that's your daddy. So those are one of my proudest moments of, just by serving. Once they see you want to serve and you really care about the community, really care about people around you, things just start to happen. And from there, I'm so grateful. So many things came out of that. I was so blessed to receive a prestigious honor from our president. I call him still our president, Barack Obama. I received the President Barack Obama Lifetime Achievement Award in 2016. I was honored with the city where they had me. My name is forever engraved on the wall. We have a plaque of being one of the founding board members to help put together a facility. We have a beautiful theater in the city of Pompano Beach. So those are just a couple of things that, my kids, and it's not just mainly for me, but for my kids to see. And I made sure my kids were always there. My kids were always front and center so they can see what's possible. Because a lot of times as adults, like we're talking about with, teaching financial literacy to our kids and teaching them how to develop, we don't involve our kids in it. So
True.
my biggest thing is exposure. You have to expose your kids to it. I didn't have them talking. I didn't have them, doing a whole bunch of, things children don't do, but I wanted them to be in that environment. I wanted them to see it. So those are all part of the great things that I'm really, really grateful for experiencing, because my kids actually was able to experience it with me. So
And that is dope, brother. That is dope, man.
thank you.
Getting recognized by the
Yeah.
city.
Yeah, it was a great honor because I'm a real spiritual person. And a lot of times where you think a lot of things you're doing when you're going through challenges, because this is actually part of the depression that I was going through, where you think a lot of things you're doing, it's a lot of things in our head. Even though, which I'm so grateful for, a lot of people still can't believe I was depressed for all those years. But the main thing I kept was I was still serving. I was still serving. Why? Because I knew it wasn't going to last. And matter of fact, this morning I shared it on my story on Instagram where,
Mhm.
yesterday we had the major storm here in South Florida. And what I shared on the story, storms don't last forever. Yesterday's storm and yesterday's challenges, that doesn't mean it's going to happen today or tomorrow. So I just always knew every day I was going to work helping people, and what was going on at home had nothing to do with these people that needed help. So I just stayed focused, and I knew the day was coming. Ended up being 4 or 5 years, but I knew the day was coming. And to me, that's major. That's a major player into overcoming what you're going through.
Definitely. I love the progress, brother. Like you never stop or never gave up. I think as long as you keep on moving and just moving towards your goals, your dreams, and taking action, man, it's gonna happen. I think what I love that you did was that you put yourself in the proximity of like all these different conversations, and doors just kept opening up. Doors just kept opening up, and then in the midst of all that, you was going through a divorce. I imagine you was bottling a whole bunch of things on the inside that you probably may not be sharing in the workplace. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not telling everybody your own personal business or whatever, and you're still going through it. You're still executing. You're still doing what you need to do. You're still being a dad. You're still running your business. You're still doing your thing out here in society. You're still giving back.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I applaud you for that. You could have easily given up. You could
Yeah.
have easily said, "I'm done," whatever. But I love that and applaud that about you, bro. Um, Next thing I want to talk to you about is if you could tell me a little bit about what do you think? What are your thoughts around mentorship and counseling? How important has that been for you and played a part in your life?
Oh, that is I've learned late in life that's major. We all think, and I share with people a lot. We all talk about going to the doctor. We don't feel well, our arm hurts, or our chest hurt, or they got a headache that lasted too long. Something don't feel. You go to the doctor. The same thing with your mental side, where to me that's just as imperative. We weren't, that wasn't a conversation growing up. And believe it or not, as a community and even as people, we've been through a lot of traumatic experiences, and a lot of times we don't realize that we're going through those type of experiences because we just, we hold it in and we bottle it up, we man up, or we'll get through it, it'll be okay. But no, you have to find a channel, you have to find an avenue. You need to have those conversations. You need to find someone, or just be able to learn how to cope with it, because that's the biggest thing, is learning how to cope with it. Understanding that it is okay that you went through it, because you're going to go through it and not stay there. But the biggest thing is we have to be open to it. So I'm definitely open for that. And it's something that needs to be a regular conversation in our community and in our homes, because a lot of times we hold things in, especially as families, where we don't share a lot of things. I was actually, it's funny, we were talking about this. I was dealing with some, health challenges with, and also my siblings. And I went to the doctor about, I want to say I had my first, it was time for me to have my first colonoscopy.
Hmm.
And the doctor was asking me questions, and I was like, no, we're okay. Family's okay. And they were like, you sure? Like, yeah. I said, just my two sisters, they have a certain condition and they're going through some challenges. And they were like, oh, okay, well, maybe you need to ask your mom or your parents about this, about, grandparents and great grandparents. And because it's just in our community, we don't talk about being sick. We don't talk about going to the hospital. I got home and I asked my mom, has anybody had, prostate cancer, or have anybody been sick? Because a lot of times when somebody passed away in our family, or, cousins, we never used to talk about what happened. It's just, when they died, they had cancer or something, but you never find out what actually happened. Why did they
Hmm.
die? And as my mom was telling me, she was like, oh yeah, your dad went to the doctor for this, or yeah, I've been doing this. I've been going through this for all these years and this and that. I'm like, why is this never? And this is a couple months ago when I went to have my first colonoscopy. And it got me back to thinking, with all the information I have, with all the wisdom and the things that I know, there's still some things that I don't know. And that was, I never sat to have a conversation. Tell me about my family's health history. Tell me about who had what. Tell me who died. Why did they pass away? Like, actually have that conversation, not just, they passed away at a certain age, or just find out what's going on, because it goes from generation, believe it or not, unless change your diet and doing certain things, it passes on, because you're picking up the same habits, meaning how you ate as a child, as an adult, in most cases, you're eating the same way. You're seasoning your food the same way. You're using the same type of, you're having the same diet. So those conversations need to have happen in the household, so we can avoid certain things. So even as an adult, I learned a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago, there were a lot of challenges in my family with certain things that I learned late in life. So, but just have those conversations. The biggest thing is having those conversations.
Definitely. So you brought up two things that I want to touch on. So the first one is about educating yourself.
Mhm.
So a lot of times in various communities, we kind of just go with the flow, go with the stigma, and carry on like just normal status quo sort of thing. I love that you chose to go back and educate yourself
Mhm.
about your family history and preparing yourself. Now you could equip yourself in regards to even though this is a hereditary type of thing, or it's carrying on through my family, then I could catch it. I could prevent it. I could do something about having this Mr. cycle in my family or something like that. Because true enough, like nowadays, based off what we're eating, what's being inside of processed food, what's being served in the store. Not everything is real. Some of the stuff out here is fake. Some of this stuff has so much chemicals in it that it's like killing you slowly. And I think it's important that you chose to educate yourself and understand what is it that's in your family. What is it that you guys used to eat? What kind of sicknesses you guys had in the past? I recall some of the times when I've been to the doctor and they would ask me, did your dad have this? Did your mom have these sorts of things? And I started picking up on those things. And as of late, I said, all right, cool. This means something. So I went back and I started talking to my mom and dad about these things, to the point of you asking about like my grandparents that came from Cuba and then came from England, and understanding like what was taking place. And I guess, for me, when I think about it, bro, like my grandparents, all of my grandparents lived all the way up to 80s, in their 80s and stuff like that. So it was very important for me to study that and understand that. What I do know, that they grew up on eating a lot of like natural types of food and fruits and things like that. So they didn't deal with a lot of processed things and stuff like that. And when we came to America, we stayed to some of the natural things and stuff like that. But I'm not gonna lie, once I joined like the military and all these other things, like they created MREs to like food that's preserved for years. You know what I mean? So think about all the chemicals that's inside of these MREs that we were eating back then, that translated all the way to what's inside of your store for them to preserve food to make it stay that long. Because I think about, like, there's like frozen fish. I've never seen a fish last for years in the freezer and you can still eat a fish. You know what I mean? So, but anyhow, I digress on that.
Yeah.
Man, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is that you you take a keen interest in giving back, and I know that you do like to give back and serve a certain community in regards to like the boys and stuff like that. So I wanted you to touch on like some of those philanthropy activities and things that you're doing. If you could share some story about that.
Yeah, definitely. Again, post marriage, where with the serving of the community, doing different things, I always felt the urge that there was more I can do. There was more
Hmm.
I can do, and I have a firm belief in, if you want to do something, and if you have that urge, find out what you love to do. And one of my biggest things were, sports, and helping young kids develop and doing certain things. So I created Save Our Boys here in locally in our city. And of course, with growing up, towards the end with the city and connecting with the different bankers and everyone, we were able to fairly quickly, I leveraged the relationships I had, and within 2 years, we were at the state capitol. We were listed for, prior to COVID, listed for allocation, which means getting set to receive funding from the state. So we leveraged that, and it's just building out the Save Our Boys and helping the young men in the community, where we can't continue to wait for someone to do something for us. We
Hmm.
can't continue to wait for them to give us something in order for us to make our kids learn certain things. We have to do the initiative. We have to take the step forward. We have to create the programs. We have to set the foundation for them to take it and then run with it. And or for when we're building a good product, which comes back to entrepreneurship as well. When you put together a good product, then people are going to want to give to it. People are going to want to support. So that was something that was near and dear, that's still near and dear to me, is my Save Our Boys non-for-profit, where we mentor young men in the community, and just help them and show them different ways of doing things. And I like to keep it really, really basic and simple, where I call it, what we teach them, are real life practical skills, meaning um, going to school on time, waking up on time, owning whatever you do, being respectful, honoring people, being grateful. Just basic things that we all take for granted, that we think doesn't help us, but it does. Because I remember growing up when I was in high school, had a great, great, great teacher. And she was actually my teacher. She was our activities director, where she mentored me. And when I say she has been one of the biggest influences in my life, she actually taught me and showed me how just being yourself and just being a certain type of person, where people appreciate being around people that try to do the right thing. Not that you're always going to do the right thing, but just doing certain things and carrying yourself a certain way, and It was just that where to me it was just basic, you know, being nice or just being polite or just opening a door or, you know, just saying thank you or just being appreciative of, you know, somebody, you know, just the little basic things. So I just took that and instilled it in a lot of kids in our local community. And um, thankfully we've been recognized for it, and it helped steer our program to grow a lot bigger. So thank you.
Bro, I applaud you for that. I was on a call yesterday with a good friend of mine, and we were talking about how could we do something with this academy to integrate that with kids. Um, you know my story growing up, and I always felt like I should do something with giving back to kids. So we talked about that yesterday, and what we did come up with from what we did come up with from that was that there's financial literacy that we're talking about, like in the community, that new laws and things like that they're talking about implementing and putting
Mhm.
in schools. But then we also said, are we teaching these kids how to be resilient? Are we teaching these kids how to overcome adversities that they're facing in school? We just had another school shooting the other day. You know what I mean? So like now kids are dealing with those types of things. So I think definitely is that's something that I know that Diversity Academy will be taking part in regards to helping these kids in school and partner with them. I love that you guys are partnering with some of these young men and teaching them all these skills that you could impart into their lives. Like I'm not sure what all of their backgrounds are, but I know a good bit of numbers and percentage that are around. Like some of these kids, some of these boys, I would say, are growing up in fatherless homes. So I think that it's important that you guys show that mentorship and showing them what it's like to grow up to be a young man and carrying all those traits and all those skills that you think that they should be needing when they get up into teenage years and adulthood. So I salute you guys for that.
Yeah, one of actually, I'm glad you touched on that. One of the main criteria is, well, the one of the main criteria is you have to be in a single parent household, not just a fatherless home or just a motherless home. Just
Hmm.
one parent has to be in a home, and that's what makes you eligible to be in the program. And the reason why I touched on that is because a lot of times, you know, statistically, they share that the lack of is what's causing a lot of the challenges that, you know, as adults people go through. But one thing I wanted to push, because at that time when I started the program, there was a lot of things going on with police as a whole in our country. So
Hmm.
one of the main things I did before the first day of school, within 3 or 4 schools in our local community, where I gathered all the local judges, pastors, community leaders, you know, everyday person, that dads going to work, and I didn't dismiss the females from our community, but I wanted the young men and women to see the male presence at our school. And one of the biggest things that surprised me at our first event was, you know, we had the presence of the local fire department, the sheriff's office were there. But the biggest thing that caught me was driving in to set up for the event, being the first day of school, the police lights were on, this, you know, not the sirens, but just the lights, and they were in the streets. And I stopped and I asked one of the lieutenants, I said, why are the lights on? Because the energy that you felt was like something was about to happen.
Mm.
And you know, we all know the presence, you know, of law enforcement in a certain place, but it was just so overwhelming with the amount of cars and all the lights. And I just asked, I said, is there something going on? Why all the lights? She's like, no, that's something we just do on the first day of school to let everyone know we're here. I said, well, is it possible that you can turn them off? That's because, you know, and I just went like that. He said, you wanted to share something? I said, yeah, can you turn them off? There's nothing happening. I say, it feels like something's about to happen.
Hmm.
He said, yeah, we could do that. We just have it to let people know we're here. And I didn't expound on it with him, but just the thought, they want to enforce their presence, but they were so open, you know, and they turned off all the lights. And from that year, they never turned on the lights on the first day of school. So
Wow.
I think it's just, even with just communicating or just sharing, maybe a different perspective. Um, I was actually grateful that they turned it off and the whole energy changed. And from then on, you know, we were there the first day of school. Parents came out. The kids loved it. We giving them high fives and bringing coffee and donuts. So that's part of what we did within the local schools on the first day of school, and just making subtle little changes to make a difference, because we're not just going to keep talking about law enforcement. What can we do to bring change? And to me, that was just one thing that I thought I can bring to them, which they obliged. It wasn't a challenge. That made a difference. So
Nice, man. I think that's pretty dope. I think some people may think law enforcement or look at law enforcement as a deterrent and things
mhm.
like that. And I think that you bringing up that point made it super cool that, you know what, tactfully, approachably, and all these other things and stuff like that, you can have that conversation.
Because I
And I
was
think
really
that's
just curious, like, why are all the lights on? And they're thinking we're letting them know we're here, and
right.
I'm thinking there's nothing going on. So um, just, but they were open to it, and they obliged.
Cool. So I want to jump back
Oh,
into
thank you, Chef Tony.
I wanted
Yeah.
to jump back into a couple things around being a dad, because how is it that you maintain like your relationship with your kids? So what is it that you're intentional about to keep that relationship going as they're grown adults now? So what is it that you make sure that you do with them?
Reinforce love, reinforce to follow your dream, reinforce what do you want to do, what is going to make you happy. Let me help you figure out what's going to make you happy. A lot of times, especially in our culture where we, because of the history of our country, meaning Haiti, even though I was born here, I'm from Haitian descent. We have this strong, strong, strong thing of we don't want our children to go through what we went through, meaning as parents, but which is how it's supposed to be. But I always felt there was this extra push. And at times growing up, you can hear it from the kids, and my parents weren't like that, but they were forced to be doctors, they were forced to be lawyers, they were forced to do certain things that they didn't want to do. But just because the parents wanted so much more for them, meaning them living through their kids, that some of the kids went through a lot of challenges. So one thing I grew, as growing up, I always read and followed certain people and learned that do what makes you happy. When you do what makes you happy, it's not going to feel like you're going to work. Yes, you're going to be working, but there's no time. You're just having fun. You're just enjoying it, but you're doing what you love. And from that, your riches come from that. And it's going to come because it's endless. You're just going to keep working, because you're doing something you love. So it's something I instill in my kids a lot. Find what makes you happy. Go through the process, and it's okay to change your mind because you're still figuring it out. And just making sure that they go through the process and keep your credit at a certain place and create your LLC, and you will figure it out later. And as time growing, lo and behold, they're both starting off early. So that's something I instill in them.
That's a beautiful thing, man. How do you maintain your physical health, mental health, spiritual health in these days nowadays?
It's funny. I don't know if you notice, I'm drinking my Gatlin. I'm a little behind, but I fall short every now and then. But I try to drink a gallon of water every day because I find out that's one of the keys to losing weight and keeping the weight down. Like I shared when I found out the in depth the history of my family, I lost 43 pounds in a span, I believe it was about 105 days. And I decided to make that change most recently and been feeling great. And it wasn't because, I was worried about dying. It was more of I need to do the right thing because living the way I was living, I got up to about 200, which was the heaviest, to 249 pounds.
Mhm.
And I was getting at the place, I'm like, this isn't going to end well for me, at least for me personally, with the history of my family. And I said, I'm going to have to do this. And I made it consistently every day. I didn't go over, I didn't go crazy at the gym. All I did gradually, I changed my diet. I was consistent every day. I walked 5 to 6 days a week. Back then I did about 4 to 6 miles every day of just walking. And two, I hear it a lot because if you follow me on IG and my stories, I get a lot in my DMs. Oh, you have time to be walking. That's because I'm going to bed earlier and I'm waking up earlier. So when everybody's still in bed, I'm out walking and making sure I wasn't making no excuses. So I was really consistent for about 3 to 4 months of losing the weight and making sure I got to a place of being comfortable. And only because I just want to live a healthier life, because I know the consequences of what's going to happen if I consistently live a certain way and eat a certain way. So just staying healthy and being consistent with it. Now I'm at the phase where I'm ready to start lifting weights so I can get back into my high school and college football days
Let's
shape.
get it.
But just getting in place and just staying comfortable and just getting healthy, just making the right choice of what we eat.
Nice, nice, nice. I love that you started prioritizing your health and all that, bro. I think that is extremely important in these days and these times, based off what we even spoke about earlier with like
Mhm.
what's in our food, what's being processed. It's really getting out of hand. So
Definitely.
I'll applaud you for that.
Thank you.
Um, I love the fact that you also is going to check on your health and making sure like all those things are up to par too as well.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on a couple things before we get out of here. How has your faith played a role in your life, bro? Um, I want to know that. You know, we've been rocking for a minute now, and I can see how consistent and how intentional you've been with your faith. So, can you tell me a little about the role that has played in your life?
Yes, definitely. Growing up as a child, grew up in a spiritual household with my parents. When I was talking about praying parents, um, I want to say up until high school, literally we had a routine every Saturday and Sunday night as a family. We came together and prayed around my parents' bed. I mean, I knew nothing else except Saturday and Sunday night, we had to go to mom and dad's room and pray before we go to bed. Or if we wanted to stay up late when they were ready to go to bed, everybody had to come and pray. And of course, as a kid, with the carpet and the knees, you're staying on your knees and you're giving God glory and praising Him. But then, even that, with going to a midnight service, and it was something, even they still allow us to be kids,
Hmm.
which is something I think I picked up along the way. Yes, when we were really young, when they were praying and doing I forgot, I don't know how you say it in English, but they had the night revivals. We were still allowed to, go be kids, but we were still in the building. We were still hearing it. We were still seeing it. So growing up with faith was a big, big part of our family. And even as adult, it taught me where, when you pray, you ask God, you believe it, you know it without a shadow of a doubt, and you're consistent. But the biggest key is you do something towards it. God's going to give you exactly what you ask for. And I share with people, whether it's good or bad, if you ask for it, you want it, and you pursue it, it's going to come. And a lot of people, sometimes they have challenge. Oh, why would God give you something that's bad? You ask for it. You're going to get exactly what you want. In other words, you're going to pay the consequences of whatever choice you make. And that's something I've read, I manifest, I see, my children see it. My daughter, every now and then, she's like, Dad, look at my board. This is what I asked for. And she's actually living it more and more. So it's something I truly believe in, where, I believe in a higher power. I truly, truly, truly know if it wasn't for a higher power, that I wouldn't be where I am today. Because in today's time, with what we're going through in today's time, you need it. You can't do it on your own. You really can't. So that's where our spiritual, my spiritual strength come from, is from my parents, and just believing and knowing that what we pray for, what we ask for, is going to come to pass.
Absolutely. I think you most things will come to pass and it will be delivered. They say he's an on-time God. The biggest thing with I see is some people aren't consistent, and some people, if they don't see the results throughout those challenges, they never pursue it or continue, and they lose their faith and they lose their belief. You know what I mean? So that's some of the biggest challenges that I do see. So I know that you stepped out of working in corporate America and you stepped into the entrepreneur space. If you could, bro, tell me about all of your business ventures, what you got going on, so we could enlighten our audience of about Mr. Cheranfant and the Cheranfant Group.
Yes, definitely. I have a one-on-one program where I coach and teach and help build businesses one-on-one with individuals. I haven't started a mentorship, say as a group whole, it's more one-on-one. But I do have several people that I coach. What I help people do is pretty much help them build their personal and business credit. And then because I also have a funding company where we help them get funding for their personal and or business. And we just like helping people build their dreams and making their dreams come into reality. Back then, I created a name for the program. We fund the unbankable. So now I'm at a place where we're not able to fund the unbankable, but we're able to get people that are unbankable, get them to the place where they are bankable. So just help people fix their personal credit, build their business credit, help establish it, and then go after the funding so people can just live the life that they want and, build a legacy that they deserve, and to be able to live a better life and just live how you want to live, because it is possible. It is possible. So
Absolutely. So this entrepreneur journey is not easy.
no, it's not.
If you could tell me about some of these challenges that you faced on your road to entrepreneurship, and what did you do in regards to overcoming some of these things that you did?
Well, one of the biggest thing is being intentional. I have about 4 or 5 key things that I think I live out daily. Being intentional with everything you do. Once you're intentional and your acts follow that, then the sky's the limit for you. The next thing is believing in yourself. With you believing in yourself, which what helps get you up in the morning, which helps motivate you, it helps keep you going. And then the other thing is believing in your dream. Those are two different things. You can believe in yourself, but don't believe in your dreams. So
Right.
the other third thing is believing in your dream. Another key one is actually taking action. Without action, you can believe all you want. You can believe in yourself, believe in your dream. But if you don't put any action towards it, nothing's going to come from that. But the biggest thing I think is key to getting into all of those places, besides being intentional, believing in yourself, believing in your dreams, you have to own what you go through, own the situation you're in, own where you are in your life. Because if you never own it, which is something you touched on, means the exact same thing of you have to what's the term you use about you have to take part in your
Participate in your own rescue, baby.
participate in your own rescue, is you owning what you're going through and do something about it. And it doesn't happen overnight. You can take your baby steps, but as long as you take action daily and be intentional with it, you're going to be able to overcome it. So the biggest key is owning where you are in your life and making the change and being intentional with it. Those are the keys that I think are really key in being successful.
Absolutely. So, my brother, thank you so much, man, for being on the show, for rocking with me, spending this time and delivering so much value to our audience. I know they're gonna walk away from this episode with tons of wisdom. If you would, before we get out of here, man, want to leave us with how we could get in contact with you, or any other words of wisdom that you want to add.
Yes, they can follow me on Instagram, Andy Cherenfant _. Same thing with TikTok, which I'm getting into. My daughter's teaching me a little bit more, even though she's reluctant, telling me, "Dad, get off TikTok." Also, they can follow me on Facebook. They can like my page on Facebook. I love giving value. I love trying to inspire people, just letting people see that there is a different way. There is light at the end of the tunnel. It's all perspective of what you take. And just, with people wanting to start businesses, don't encourage you just to quit your job, and you do have responsibilities, but take action every day to help build towards your dream, and it will become a reality. And if anybody needing assistance with personal credit, building their business credit, and getting funding, I'm here to assist them. And one of the biggest thing is, when you build your credit, you get the funding, where are you going to put it to be able to get you where you want to go? Because not necessarily everybody has to be an entrepreneur, but with you getting your funding and getting certain capital, you can invest it in different things to be able to grow your wealth. So that's something I encourage everyone to do. Is everyone can start a business, everyone can register a business, everyone can build a business credit, even though you're working a 9 to 5. Once you get your investment money, then put it into something and invest, and just watch your nest egg grow. So
Well, thank you for that, my brother. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for dropping the wisdom, the knowledge. Thank you for being on the show and blessing this platform.
thank you for having
Um, yeah, man. Thank you, brother. Thank you, thank you, thank you. For all of our listeners, just make sure you tune in weekly for new episodes. We're going to be talking about how some of our people here are overcoming adversity, going through these challenges, and just to give you that message that if they could do it, you could do it too as well. Just
me.
make sure you like, subscribe to the channel so you can always get new updates. You can follow me on social media at IamMichaelAllison.com. Until next time, peace, and I love you.
Thank you, brother. I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Peace.
Can't complain at all, Couple dollars in my pocket, no income and go. Been working on my body, getting healthier. Thank God for clarity.